Welcome to DD History, where we turn ancient chaos into bite-sized fun. Now, we all know ancient Egypt had pyramids, mummies, and enough gold to make Fort Knox blush. But here's the thing. For all their engineering genius and love of shiny tombs, the Egyptians' true obsession wasn't gold. It was cats. Yay, cats. In ancient Egypt, cats weren't just cute companions, they were sacred beings. You so much as startled one, and you might end up facing divine judgment, or worse, Egyptian law. These furry creatures became so powerful they had their own temples, priests, and royal burials. They were mummified by the millions, and at one point, believe it or not, they were literally used as weapons of war. Stick around, because this story proves that ancient Egypt's biggest dynasty might just have been the House of Whiskers. Long before Cleopatra was charming Romans or pyramids pierced the desert sky, Egypt was already home to cats, small, lean, wild African cats called Felis sylvestris libica. They weren't pets, not at first. They were wild hunters, prowling the Nile Valley for rodents and snakes. Two things Egyptians really hated. See, Egyptian civilization depended on grain, mountains of it, stored to survive floods and droughts. That grain attracted rats, which attracted snakes, which attracted cats, who killed both. And the Egyptians noticed. Cats were quick, silent, and didn't seem afraid of much. They stalked pests like furry assassins. Farmers realized that wherever cats lived, their crops were safe. So they started leaving out food, building trust, and before long, cats moved in. In a world full of crocodiles, scorpions, and jackals, a creature that kept away danger and protected food must have looked pretty divine. That's where the mythology begins. Cats weren't just animals anymore, they were guardians. They were protectors, and protectors in Egypt quickly became gods. Every Egyptian god had a job. Ra drove the sun across the sky. Osiris handled the afterlife, and Bastet, she ruled over cats, joy, and protection. Originally, Bastet wasn't even a house cat. Early depictions show her as a lioness, fierce and bloodthirsty. But as Egyptian life stabilized, fewer wars, more cities, more comfy homes, her image softened. The mighty lioness became a domestic cat, sleek and elegant. Her claws were still sharp, but her new vibe was motherly protection. Bastet's followers believed she protected homes from evil spirits and disease, especially those that affected women and children. They prayed to her for fertility, family harmony, and good health. And of course, they treated cats as her living symbols. Temples to Bastet appeared all across Egypt, but none more famous than the grand city of Bubastis, the city of cats. Her temple there was legendary. Greek visitors like Herodotus wrote that festivals in Bubastis were wild. Music, dancing, rivers of wine, and millions of pilgrims carrying cat statues. It was like Coachella, but with more eyeliner and way more cats. And the cats themselves? They lived like royalty. People brought offerings, jewels, milk, and fancy food. Cats in temples could wander anywhere they pleased, including the altar. They were untouchable. So yeah, if you're ever feeling spoiled by your cat demanding attention at 3 a.m., just remember, at least you're not worshipping it yet. If you're enjoying this bizarre slice of history, make sure to like this video and subscribe to DD History. All right, let's get back to our story before Bastet's temple cats demand more screen time. When a society truly loves something, it writes laws about it. And ancient Egypt wrote a few wild ones. Killing a cat, even by accident, was one of the worst crimes you could commit. Roman historian Diodorus Siculus wrote that if an Egyptian saw someone harm a cat, a mob would form instantly. Trials were rare. Justice was swift. One story claims a Roman accidentally ran over a cat with his chariot. The locals surrounded him before officials could intervene. He didn't survive long enough to say, "Mea culpa." That's how serious it was. Cats were sacred property of the gods. Untouchable, immortalized, and heavily protected. Families often kept cats at home, feeding them scraps and adorning them with jewelry. When a beloved cat died, the household went into mourning, and then they'd mummify the cat, carefully wrapped in linen, sometimes decorated with painted faces, and buried in little coffins. Archaeologists have found entire cat cemeteries, tens of thousands of feline mummies stacked like treasure in underground vaults. At Bastet, excavations uncovered over 300,000 mummified cats. That's not religion, that's an empire of whiskers. Temples needed cats. Pilgrims wanted cats. So, naturally, a cat industry exploded. People bred, raised, and sold cats for offerings. Skilled artisans crafted miniature bronze cat statues, amulets, and jewelry. And behind the scenes, some temples ran what we might politely call a cat mummification business. Priests would raise cats, mummify them when they died, or sometimes, hurry the process along, and sell the mummies to worshippers as holy offerings. So many were made that it became an export business. In the 1800s, British archaeologists discovered massive cat tombs, and instead of keeping them intact, they ground thousands of mummies into fertilizer for farms in England. And if that's not weird enough, the story gets even stranger. Around 525 BCE, Egypt was at war with Persia. The Persian king Cambyses II was known for being ruthless, but also clever. He knew how sacred cats were to Egyptians. So when his army marched toward the city of Pelusium, he ordered something unconventional. Persian soldiers painted cats and images of Bastet on their shields. Some accounts even claim they carried live cats at the front lines. When the Egyptian army saw their beloved animals charging toward them, they froze. They couldn't fight back. To strike a cat, or even a symbol of one, was blasphemy. The Persians advanced unharmed. Egypt fell, and Cambyses reportedly walked straight into a temple of Bastet, laughing, tossing cats around to prove his victory. It's one of the strangest examples of psychological warfare in history. The day Egypt lost a war because its enemy weaponized kittens. Over the centuries, Egyptian religion shifted. Greek influence, Roman rule, and the rise of Christianity slowly replaced the old gods. Temples closed. The cult of Bastet faded. But the cats stayed. Egyptians still kept them, loved them, and passed down the idea that cats were lucky. Even after the divine titles disappeared, the affection didn't. The ancient bond between Egyptians and their cats echoed through time, all the way to modern culture. In a weird way, we've come full circle. Today, cats rule the internet, command human attention, and walk across keyboards like they own the world. Maybe Bastet never really left. She just moved online. Cats shaped Egyptian art, mythology, and daily life more than almost any other animal. When we think of ancient Egypt today, eyeliner, statues, golden eyes, we're still seeing echoes of Bastet. That feline poise became the visual identity of an entire civilization. So the next time your cat knocks something off the counter while staring at you like a tiny god, just remember, in another era, that would have been divine judgment. They worshipped cats because cats were everything humans wanted to be. Graceful, fearless, adored, and impossible to control. And maybe, in their own way, the Egyptians were right, because thousands of years later, the cats are still in charge.